Good evening, everyone. My name is Randolph, and I serve as the Executive Director of Curriculum and Instruction for the Cabot School District. I appreciate you taking the time today to watch this video, and I hope you gain some needed information about the Cabot Panther Digital Academy. I initially planned to have an in-person parent meeting or two in order to visit with everyone and ensure that you had the most up-to-date information. However, upon closing our application on Sunday night, we have over 1,500 K-12 students who are registered for the CPDA. With that in mind, it would have taken multiple events to make sure all patrons were able to safely attend an in-person event. We also know that work schedules can make attending meetings challenging in the best of circumstances, and COVID certainly has created even more difficult schedules and situations for many of you to manage. With all those pieces in mind, we felt that having one recorded message that would be accessible at any time and place would be best for our community. If after watching this you feel that there's something we haven't addressed or need to share out, please let us know by emailing covid19questions@cabotschools.org. We will do our best to answer those emails directly and place pertinent information on our website as it becomes available. I can say we have had many questions sent to us about daily schedules or class rosters or other student-specific information. Please know that those are answers that we would not have released to parents or guardians at this point in the year prior to COVID. Our building schedules and class rosters are still being created. Student and staff numbers are not truly finalized until closer to school beginning, and it would be problematic for us to release any preliminary schedules. Having said that, since this is a new program, and I know there is some unease about the unknowns, I will share the draft schedule we've created for our K-6 CPDA classroom. This program is a completely digital option for our students and families. What this means is that for the most part, your child will not need to step foot on campus this year. However, we do need to remind our parents that we are bound by state and federal laws on administering specific assessments to our students. Some of those will require that our students be on campus. We are working with those assessment vendors to provide clarification on what can or cannot be administered at home, and we'll provide more specifics as we receive them. A few key points that I would like to share with our CPDA families that have changed since we first began communicating about this program. Number one, all K-12 students will be assigned to their respective home schools, and their teachers will work in that school. In other words, if you live on Forbes Road and have a second grade student, your child would still be enrolled at Southside and would be a part of the Southside community. This shift allows students and families to stay connected to their schools, and if they decide to transition back to on-site learning, it will be a much smoother process. Number two, there is the potential that CPDA students will share a teacher with on-site students. I mentioned that we had a large number of CPDA applicants. However, due to staff and student numbers and ratios, we could not justify creating a completely digital school. As I mentioned, we see great value in keeping students at their home schools. However, we don't have enough CPDA students in every grade level at every school to have a purely digital teacher in every spot. Administration is working with our curriculum team and our teachers to make this as seamless as possible for students and staff, and we will release further details as soon as they are available. Students in grades K-6 will be instructed using a mixture of district-adapted phonics lessons, district-created activity lessons for PE, health, counseling, etc., and a few other resources. However, the primary math and literacy instruction for most K-6 students will be from the NSYNC platform, which uses a digital version of the Wit and Wisdom literacy curriculum along with Eureka Math. This curriculum will be utilized as the developers have focused in on the big rocks of essential skills and standards our students need to master before moving on to the next grade. In addition, teachers will be utilizing the Generation Genius science curriculum. All instruction will be delivered to students via Google Classroom. In Google Classroom, teachers will place pre-created videos from these sources, self-created videos of certain topics, assignments, and other activities which follow our district curriculum. Number four, regarding a weekly schedule, I mentioned earlier that I did not want to share preliminary items as they are not finalized and could cause confusion or stress for people. However, I know that our CPDA parents and families have many questions about this. Therefore, I want to share one of the 3 drafts we are currently creating with our teams to determine what would work best for all. I say one of 3 because I do believe at the end of the day, one schedule may not fit every grade and every classroom, but I do think you as CPDA parents should see the general view of our expectations. As you can see, we've tried to break things down into an easy-to-read format so that parents can see what our expectations are for them and their children. On average, you can expect around 2 hours of on-demand videos, around 1.5 hours of assignments, 1 30-minute to an hour Google Meet per day, and 1 hour for special services. It's important to note that the only time-specific events would be Google Meets with a classroom teacher and any scheduled special services. Outside of those, your videos and assignments will be accessible throughout the day, and these assignments can include reading and/or writing pieces, quizzes, exams, creative works, math practice, and a number of other activities. Please remember that this is a draft example for an average day. Some students won't require special services. Some days may go longer than others. Some assignments may be much simpler for one student over another. There are many factors to be considered. However, just know that families should block off between 3 and 5 hours between 8 and 3:30 for our K-6 student school day. We're finalizing expectations with our digital teachers as we speak, but they will also fit within that frame. Secondary parents. Your child's class will be scheduled during the day, much like it was if they were in the building. However, CPDA staff will only meet with their students via Google Meet twice per week. Those Google Meets will not be expected to take an entire 40-plus minute class period. Building administrators and their leadership teams will be working to create a schedule that alternates days of Google Meets so that no student should be required to attend more than 3 Google Meets in a given day. I hope this information is helpful, and please know that we are doing our best to develop, test, vet, and publish information to our stakeholders. I know it can be frustrating as a parent to not have all the information to help you in your decision making. In all honesty, we are working to create a brand new instructional system for our district, and it is not something that happens overnight. We also want to make sure that what we establish is effective for all and is in the best interest for our students. In addition, I wanted to talk about the expectations for CPDA students and parents. In the spring, we as a society, not just in education, were put into a tough spot. We had to adjust everything we were doing at a moment's notice. In regards to new instruction, the majority of that stopped for us, and most of our instruction was based upon reviewing and keeping students from losing skills. As a district, we became very familiar with AMI packets, watching PBS. But it is imperative that CPDA parents and students know that this new school year will not look like last spring. Instruction of new material will begin on day 1, and the expectation for all of us is that we are working to regain skills that may have been lost or need refreshing and to master state set standards. This will be a team effort between families and schools, which will involve instruction, review, and assessment. As a group, we must move our students forward this year. Students and parents must be engaged daily in their lessons. You will notice that we are not firmly scheduling a calendar that says students need to do this at 8, this at 9, and so forth. Other than scheduled Google Meets or extra services, most material will be accessible on demand. With that in mind, parents and students have to ensure that they are actively working on their assigned tasks and pushing to continue to grow academically. We also have to ensure that our students are able to develop socially and emotionally. Therefore, it is imperative that students be active participants in class discussions, group assignments, and collaborative activities. We need parents to support their students by being actively engaged in their students' learning. Families must also keep in mind the differences of their students in regards to age, ability, and personality. As a parent who will have students enrolled in the CPDA, I can tell you we will work with our first grader in a different way than we will our third grader. True, they have very different personalities, but it's also important to remember how critical the lessons students learn in K2 are for the remainder of their educational career. I know that how well my son's foundation for reading is established in his kindergarten and first grade classes will absolutely affect his future academic progress. Whereas my third grader is reading at a much more advanced level, and he will need support elsewhere in his educational growth. As CPDA parents, you must be prepared to be engaged with your students' teachers and work together to help support your child. Our CPS staff is putting together some guidelines and appropriate social media behavior that will be shared with our community. One lesson we learned by using Zoom for our meetings this spring was that kids will act like kids. In the same way that I know a particular student may try to shoot spitballs in class, that desire doesn't really change just because we're meeting virtually. Thankfully, spitballs don't easily go through a computer monitor. However, disruptive behavior on social media can be just as disruptive, or maybe even more so, than it would be in person. Our staff will be working with their students early in the first few weeks of school on these practices. A few key things to remember on this topic. Number 1, treat others with respect. Number 2, use your inside voice. Number 3, listen to your teacher or to your classmates as they share with the group. And number 4, always mute yourself until you are recognized. I should note that teachers will have the power to do this for their classrooms. I'd wanted to provide a Google Classroom introduction for our audience. However, I felt like it would be easier for me to simply link 2 videos already on YouTube and to let you know that we are actively creating a library of help videos for staff, students, and teachers. This will go live prior to school starting and will be accessible at your convenience. In the meantime, take a few minutes to learn more about Google Classroom using the links that are found in the description below this video. There are a few key technology items to mention. First, every CPS student, including CPDA, will have a Chromebook assigned to them this year. On-site students will receive these devices during the first week of school. Our CPDA students will receive theirs during open houses. Those schedules and instructions on how to schedule your open house appointment will be shared out in the next week or so. Building leaders will work with technology on how that process will look for their building. Secondly, for younger students, such as my son, I know it is daunting to think about them having to type in their username and passwords every time they log into the system. With the use of Clever, we can actually provide a QR code for our younger students that they could simply hold in front of the camera, and now will automatically log them into the device. The last thing I want to mention is that if you have specific concerns with your student in regards to special education services, English learner services, gifted programming, or any other particular service, I would encourage you to reach out to the directors or coordinators of those programs. Above all else, we want to take care of our students and families. Together, we are and we will continue to be Panther Strong. I'm sure there are questions or concerns I haven't addressed. If you have questions remaining after watching this video, please email covid19questions@cabotschools.org. We will do our best to answer all of your questions and ask that you be patient with us as our district works diligently to finalize all details for the school year. Thank you, and go Panthers!